Hello, dear students. This week we're going to be looking at the Mediterranean world, interactions across the Eastern Hemisphere, and we're going to focus on the third great civilization that emerges from the end of the Roman Empire around 476 or so. Okay, and in other words, we're going to be looking at Islamic civilization in its golden age between 600 and 1400. Now, I want you to take a look at this map. This week we're going to examine the third and the last of the major civilizations to emerge in Western Afro-Eurasia, this region over here, after the crisis and fall of the Roman Empire, which begins, remember, in the 3rd century CE. By the end of this week, we'll have studied all three major civilizations that emerge from the destruction of the old Roman Empire. Between 300 and 1400. Now, 2 weeks ago, we studied what happened to the Western Roman Empire in this area here, which we saw disappeared around 476. We saw that after a period of chaos, disorder, and disappearance of cities and organized governments in this area here, a period known as the Dark Ages that lasts from around 400 to 1000, by 1000, we saw how a new system known as feudalism had emerged in what we now start to call the Western Europe. Okay, next, last week, we studied what happened in the eastern half of what had been the Roman Empire. What happened in the eastern half and how it reorganized as the Byzantine Empire with its new capital of Constantinople, located around here. A Eastern Roman Empire, or Byzantine Empire, as it would come to be known, that would live on until 1453 as an Eastern and Christian successor to the Roman Empire of antiquity. Though it should be said that over time it lost much territory. So we see actually around 300 after the Muslim invasions, this was all that was left of the Eastern Roman Empire. Still, it was still an important fragment of the Roman Empire, albeit a Christian one. All right, and finally this week we're going to examine the most spectacular of the successors to not only the Roman Empire, but also the Persian Empire we haven't talked much about. And specifically, we're going to be talking about the Islamic civilization, right? The various caliphates that emerge in this region over here. And it should be said that of the three civilizations, of the three civilizations we've studied over these last 3 weeks, it can be said that the Islamic civilization really is the most advanced, as you can see here by its size, its population, its wealth, and also the cultural and scientific achievements that it has left behind to us, and of course, and to the world in general. Okay? So Islam produced large, populated, rich cities and networks of trade, which brought it great wealth. Not only did Islamic civilization produce impressive cultural achievements, but because the founders of Islam, the Prophet Muhammad and his successors, were business people, were merchants, wealth and prosperity also rose in this part of the world to levels not seen since the height of the Roman Empire. Okay, so let's proceed now to the next slide. The two questions we're going to focus on answering this week are, how and why did Islam spread between 620 and 1400? We're going to focus on the early period, 620 to around 1100 or 1200. Why did it spread so fast and so far to cover really much of Eurasia? And number two, what are the legacies or what's left behind of Islam? What do we owe Islam? Very important also. So let's start with the first question. Why did Islam spread so fast and so far? And there are three major reasons for why Islam is so successful. You're going to examine on your own, just how far it spread in terms of geography, starting on Tuesday. But if you take a look at this map here, you see the spread of Islam through 750 CE. Only a century after the death of the Prophet Muhammad. And you see how incredible its reach, how far it spread already by then, within 100 years. In the following centuries, Islam would actually reach Indonesia, at the far eastern edge of Eurasia, as well as Eastern and Western Africa at the very opposite end of the Eastern Hemisphere. So by the end of the period we're going to be studying in this class, by 1500 CE, Islam would have created the largest civilization in terms of size and population the world had ever seen. This is an amazing event. Though fragmented politically into many empires and even types of Islam, types of religious Islam such as Shia Islam and Sunni Islam, Muslims in effect created the first globe, world-spanning world civilization. But now let's go back to the origins of Islam and address and look at the following question. How do we explain why Islam from the very beginning spread so fast and far within only the first century of its existence? Now, there are three major reasons I want you to remember that explain Islam's initial success spreading, as seen in this map. The first was the incredible military strength of the Arabs. Remember, Prophet Muhammad and his followers were Arabs who lived in this part of the world, Arabia. Their military skills were supreme. They fought on fast-moving dromedaries that were very well adapted to the arid conditions, the dry conditions of the areas of the Middle East and the Middle East over here and the southern Mediterranean that the Arabs first conquered. Okay, so that's the first reason, military strength, which is not uncommon. That's what invaders and conquerors, they generally win because they have military strength. But there's some very other important reasons for the success of Islam also. The second reason was that the two superpowers of that time, and we're talking around 600, 700, the Byzantine Empire, Eastern Roman Empire, and the Persian Empire, which was here, these two superpowers had been fighting each other for centuries. So when the Arabs arrived, they were quite weak from having fought one another. And that made it relatively easy for the Arab conquerors on their dromedaries to take over all of the Persian Empire over here and much of the Byzantine Empire over here. Okay, so that's the second reason for the success, the initial success of the Arab Muslims, and the fact they spread Muslim Islamic civilization as fast as they did. The weakening of the Persian and Byzantine Empire because they had been fighting one another for so long. Okay, number three, very important also, was that Islam was very attractive, including to the people it conquered. And why is that? Number one, Islam was tolerant. As Islam spread across these lands depicted here, Muslims allowed local populations to keep their religion. If they were Christian, to remain Christian, or Jewish, or if they were Persian, there was a religion at the time called Zoroastrianism. The Persians were allowed to keep their religion if they chose. So, this also is a reason for the success of Islam, its tolerance of other religions. There's another reason also, was that Muslims did not have to pay taxes, as much taxes as the other populations that were conquered, as Christians and Zoroastrians. So over time, what would happen is that Christians and Zoroastrians in Persia would convert to Islam. And that's the second reason that made Islam attractive, was that if you were a Muslim, you paid lower taxes. Okay, so these are the three main reasons I want you to retain that explain the success of Islam, and there are others, but those are the principal ones I want to discuss. So let's move on to our second question, which was that we're addressing this week, is what are the legacies of Islam? What left behind? What was left behind to world civilization and continues to enrich our civilizations? Well, the short answer is a lot. And here I want to say that, in Western Europe, remember, by Western Europe, we're referring to the western half of the old Roman Empire that disappeared after 476. In Western Europe, people have long believed that they owed everything to the Roman and Greek civilization of the Golden Age that we studied earlier in this course. And it's true that Greece and Rome left behind a rich legacy, architecture we talked about, which is why in New York, for example, you see so much architecture that looks Roman or Greek. But Islamic civilization in its golden age, which lasted from around 600 to around 1500 CE, also contributed a huge amount to Western Europe, to Western civilization, but also world civilization. So this is another topic you're going to be exploring on Thursday. And it's very important we appreciate that and understand that, because it's often been insufficiently studied, and we have tended to ignore how much we owe to this extraordinary civilization of Islam, whether it be geometry, mathematics, medicine, surgery, astronomy, technology. So much was gained from Islam. All right, so that's it.